flash of light coming at your Faraday cage, and then start looking for holes. Any questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Sure.
Why don't you use the word beam? Because that's what it is.
Okay, why do you feel that it's a beam, and what do you back that up with? Every radio
Well,
every radio frequency is in fact.
a beam.
Okay, do you realize what you're saying? A
Yeah,
beam has to be directed. A narrow beam, for instance, has to be directed. It has
right.
to be pointed exactly at you at great expense by the
No,
federal government. Yes. I'm sorry.
these beams are made. They're, okay, I have a report, a file, a government file by the Joint Economic Committee. These are scientists who went before Congress and they talked about something called a TED. Now, a TED definition is transient electromagnetic device. Transient means pulse. And this is what they talked about to Congress. This was in 1997 or 8, I think.
Okay,
They were
Barb.
telling they were telling Congress that this was coming, and they also spoke about backyard garage methods, that a lot of these devices that beam and pulse can be created
Can I
using
interrupt you for
radio,
a second?
can be used, can be made using.
Excuse me. May I interrupt you just for a second? A transient device uses ambient electricity to charge whatever it's using. That's what
It uses
transient
a
means. And
it
they are
uses a
designed,
battery.
and
No,
it's,
transient in this case means a pulse.
okay, do you realize what those are designed for? Those are designed for warfare. Do you
No,
realize?
they're not. You've got to read this report
Okay,
because
this
you're
is what I'm
far
going to
off.
tell you, okay? Uh, if you go aboard any of the new destroyers, you are going to see a rail gun, okay? That
Right.
it's not propelled by any form of gunpowder. It shoots Volkswagen-sized
Projectiles.
rounds at the enemy with
Right.
no cost except for electricity. But what
Right.
I'm trying to say is transient in this case can mean a lot of things, but what it means to me is it's using transient electricity to charge itself. And UPS, United Parcel Service, uses this same technology to charge their vehicles overnight. Now, UPS has a grid that they park their vehicles on. Their vehicles are charged overnight. Anything that's aboard, anything such as the batteries of the unit, and in turn, if a unit comes in and it's overcharged, it feeds back to the UPS grid. This is this is an example of how advanced. Now, do you know where that technology came from? It came from the little charger that you put on a table that charges everything from your cell phone uh, to a cordless drill. But that's where that's gone. So that's what transient means to me. Now, most of these weapons that are developed for use overseas against our enemies. They are problems for us when they are stolen from the government, when they are taken by false means from the government.
Can I
When
finish what I was saying?
can I finish what I'm saying first? And I'm going to let you talk.
All right.
And into finally the private sector. Now, once they make it to the private sector, by whatever means that they got there, the private sector is free to use it until subject by the FCC. Now, go ahead, Barb.
Okay. In this report, he talks about devices that can be made with components from Radio Shack. And he
Not
speaks
anymore.
about, yes, you can.
Oh, well, Radio Shack, I was just making a joke. Radio Shack's going out of business.
Oh, all right. Well, what I have seen about the people in my area, these local people, is that they've taken local average technology, like these games, like your cell phones, blah blah blah, and they've weaponized them.
Okay, my only problem with cell phones is this. You have to get the cell phone down to the level at which the human body operates in order to manipulate brain activity.
You're not
In
you're
order,
not manipulating
I
brain.
don't like to be interrupted, and I will not.
Neither do I.
Well, I'm speaking. So cell phones are way up. What are they? 5 gigs now, 5 gigahertz. That's the latest. Okay, so how are they turning this 5 gigahertz into something that can control the human brain? That's my
They're not
question to you.
controlling. They're not controlling. What they are doing is harassing. I was in Boston in a subway on the Green Line. A girl was on one side of me, in back of me, and a guy was on the other side, in back of me. They both had cell phones out, and they were triangulating me, and I was the third antenna. They're not trying to control me. They're trying to harass me. And this pulse that their cell phones was giving off, and I'm in a tunnel going right through my head. That's what they were doing.
Okay, now as far as I know, I mean, the old saying is there's an app for that. Well, I haven't seen a phaser app on my iPhone yet, and I've got the latest iPhone 7. But I'm not
I was told it's an
belittling
Android.
I'm not belittling what you're saying. What I'm saying is the iPhone is not capable of projecting anything in that way. You cannot
Well,
point an
I
iPhone at someone and push a button on the iPhone and have it shoot a narrow beam at someone. It's just not going to happen.
now wait a minute.
The
It's a
phone is
pulse.
it's not
Your
designed for that.
phone.
It would take out the
Your
person
phone.
using it.
Now wait a minute. Your phone is pinged every 10 seconds, 30 seconds to hit the tower. It's pinged. What
Okay,
they
for
have learned to
location.
do, wait a minute, don't interrupt me. What they have learned to do is they have learned to take this pulse that their phone pings the tower back and use it as a harassment tool. I'm not telling you they're trying to control me. That's Audio Spotlight. This is a
Okay,
harassment device.
Audio Spotlight is a very dim view of what is actually going on. Okay, we're still trying to figure out the delivery method for that technology. They are not using the product Audio Spotlight. However, Dr. Pompeo, who developed Audio Spotlight while he was working for Bose Audio, uh, oh God, he was working for them in the summertime. But he's the inventor, Dr. Pompeo.
What do you mean
And
they're not using Audio Spotlight
they're
as
not
a,
using Audio Spotlight, hon. They're using the government version of it. Okay?
which is HSS, hyper
Okay.
silent sound?
If you're on top of Mount Everest and you get hit with an attack, okay, Where is the assailant? Because it
How,
happens. It happens.
well,
Okay.
it can happen several ways. One of the ways that can do it is drop triggers. And these triggers are activated by something you see, or hear, or experience. And it can play a movie in your head. It can make you say words that they want you to say. It can make you move in a certain direction. This has happened to me, so I know that's a reality.
Okay.
Or you could be hit by a satellite and they can pulse a beam at you
All right.
and they're not that high up, or a drone and that's not that
Yeah.
high up. These satellites move up and down in the atmosphere. They can, they're not at one level. Or
If a satellite
same with the drones.
starts to move down in attitude, it is going to burn up. Okay, a satellite is in a fixed orbit. They can change, they can modify slightly, but they are constrained by their orbit.
I don't
So
know.
I do.
I've seen some pretty funny things from satellites.
Okay, all I'm trying to do is I'm trying to ready you for the fact that, okay, I want you to try and let go of a lot of this nanotechnology. And I
I don't.
want you to let go for a specific reason because it has been disseminated by the government or by someone to draw attention away from microchips. Because I will tell you what they use. You talked about triangulation. That's very good, Barb, because they're using your own cell phone to track you. Uh,
Yeah, of course.
so that takes place of the RFID chip. Then after that, we have to start looking at another chip, which is more complicated. Okay, uh, Dwight mentioned the Cactus semiconductor chip. That happens to be the same one that I have. That is the most complex medical chip there is, or was at the time. And the reason they planted those particular medical chips were so that someone who had an operation that was very close to the brain didn't have to stay in the hospital, but could go home and be monitored by the hospital secretly. And then the chip
Yeah, I
was
don't think
supposed
I
to
have
be,
any of those. I don't
you
think I
don't,
have any.
you don't think you do. When was the last time you were at the hospital?
Almost positive. Years ago.
Everyone who's been at a hospital uh, is at risk for being chipped. All
I
right.
don't think so.
I had my doctor, okay, just by mentioning this, the doctor in 2007 who did my sinus operation was so scared to speak with me that he called the police at the same time that I was down at the police station filing a report. And this is only several months ago. So what I'm trying to tell you is these people are scared. I think
Of
they
what?
of being prosecuted. All you have to do is get the chip out, get the serial numbers off of it. It will tell you where the chip came from originally, the manufacturer, uh, the vendor. All that information is on there in a barcode. So nothing is a secret. Just like when you print out something from your computer, you think you are very safe and that your correspondence by snail mail is private. Well, it is not private because within the watermark on that particular piece of paper is about a quarter paragraph of the printer, where it was purchased, who purchased it,
Right.
how many documents have been printed, what kind of documents have been printed, where were they sent. There's no end to it. That's why if you stick with inkjet. From what I understand, inkjet printers were the last ones to actually be taken over by this process. It's the same as a photograph. If you take a photograph, the camera is listed. Who owns the camera is maybe not listed, but the purchaser is listed in code. So if you take uh, pornographic pictures, look out, because that information is on that picture or within that picture.
Do you know Steve Delano in New York City?
I'm not familiar with them. No.
He was just picked up having kitty porn on his computer. He's a TI. He's the one who told me I was a TI back in '96.
Yeah, you're one of the oldest ones, Barb, and we all have a lot of respect for you. That's why uh, we're very eager to listen to what you have to say. But there's
Well,
a
I got
lot
something
of
for you.
information has changed over the years, and we're all trying to follow it. And we're listening to you, and we're listening to Eleanor White. She's the first person that I actually looked at her information. She had built a Faraday cage, and she was
Right.
going over what didn't work and why. It was very interesting. I still have it.
Do you know what she said the other day?
What,
She said that the Lilly wave is not scientifically proven. And I thought that when I first went into, what's his name, Magnus Olson, when he did a video of that professor in Germany or Switzerland or someplace like that. And he talked about the Lilly wave. Now, that was the first time I ever heard of it. And Eleanor White just came out with this statement last week. And she said that the Lilly wave is not scientifically proven. And I've long felt that. I thought, Peter Rosenholm talks about it all the time, like he's the in crowd. And I think it's bullshit.
the Lilly wave was discovered by Dr. Lilly, and it resides outside of any AC circuit. And the power companies to this day use the Lilly wave to communicate. And in 2011, I had this device that they're using on us online, and I lost it. It had all kinds of precautions all over it. Don't use in the proximity of human beings. Don't use unwisely against human beings. I had the device, and I lost it, and I'm kicking myself to this day for
Right.
losing it.
She's an electrical engineer. She
Yes,
would know. She would know.
I am.
I trust her explicitly
I'm a.
over
I am a.
everybody else.
I'm a sound engineer. Okay, I'm a recording engineer. I've worked with sound all my life. That's one of the
And
things that I did. So intertwined with sound is electricity and circuit boards and computers.
right.
So I am well versed in many of these areas. And
So you would know that a lot of this is acoustics.
is a what? Excuse me?
Acoustics.
I know that it's all acoustics. I posted recently a video on Targeted Massachusetts. It was coffee shop background noises, and I said, take that particular audio, play it with headphones, lying down in a dark room, and it is the exact duplication of what the perps do with their voices, like putting them up above you, putting them beside you, putting them in the freezer, putting them in the bathroom, in the shower. This is the system that they're using. So this disarms that part of their attack, if you will, for me, because I heard it done professionally by a studio. Okay. My studio, I stopped in 1992, actually closer to 93. And this particular form wasn't available to me because I didn't have the particular FX or special effects to perform this operation. But this is what is used. I strongly encourage that you listen to it. If you have V2K, especially, this is something that you definitely want to hear. And
I only get it when they want to trigger me or they want to control what I'm doing. Usually they're pretty silent about it. It don't bother me like a lot of people get constant chatter. I don't get that. I just get a few words every once in a while.
I get constant V2K all day long, and the things that they say to me are incredible. Uh, they're things, it's gutter talk. It's all about sex. It's all about bathroom stuff. It's all about, well, did you wipe yourself good enough? Are you sure? You should check again. I mean, this is the most sublime stuff that I have ever heard in my life.
That's so
It,
silly.
and
Why?
did you get
I
any on
wouldn't.
did you get any on your hand? I mean, it's that silly.
Stupid. Yeah.
It's like 5-year-old stuff. But, one of the perps said, well, one of the things we do is we try to go back in your childhood and grab events like where you messed your pants or something like that. And, you were embarrassed. And they try to bring those fears forward into your present adult life. And they find it very difficult with me because I just shrug the stuff off. I've been a good guy my whole life, and most of the TIs, or should I say, all of the TIs, all good people. So we're above these attacks. So when you consistently hear these things, let them roll off if you can. If you can't, my thing is this is what I will tell you about V2K. They learn everything. 99% will say, or 80% from your site. Everything you see, they comment on. Everything you see, especially when it's part of your morning routine, they comment on. Have you got enough sugar in your coffee? Shouldn't you stir that again? Did you put
Oh,
enough?
I don't get that at all.
Did you put enough milk in? You're getting fat. You should really cut down on the sugar you use. Why don't you use, it just goes on and on and on. Did you stir your coffee? You should stir it again. That's too cold. Don't put your spoon in the cup. It'll make your coffee cold.
Oh my God.
No, they pick apart your life right down into the smallest, tiniest detail. Uh, right down to like when you're working on something. Have you got the right tool? Is that the right size screwdriver? Should you be doing this? We don't. We want to call a professional in to fix this, and then they'll say, "Well, I'll be driving," and they'll say, "Well, this is our car," and I don't say anything. We want you to take it to a professional and have it worked on, and they know that I'm a professional, and they try to
Listen,
insult you in
this
ways
this
that
woman.
are uncommon.
Do you know Lorraine Thompson lives south of Boston?
Sounds familiar.
Okay, her husband's got DK all the time, and
Yep.
he was playing with a radio. Now I don't know if he was AM or FM, but he turned to her. He was playing with the dial, and he tuned into this station, I guess. And he turned to her and he said, "Can you hear that?" And she said, "Yeah." He says, "It's exactly what's playing in my head." And
Okay.
he was picking it up on the radio.
It was probably uh, Peter says that he picks it up on FM, right around 1,000, something like that, or FM 100.
Yeah, he did too.
I don't have a radio at this point that goes down below 530. I need to pick up an old radio, old AM Tubi radio that I can go down below 100. And I think if we get down below 100, we'll start actually picking them up because
See,
AM
that's one
has,
of the.
can I just
Let
say
me
one
let
thing?
me go
AM
ahead.
has a habit of picking up things around you. If you'll notice, if you're on AM and there's static on, if a truck goes by, you'll hear that truck's engine, especially if it needs work. You'll
Oh,
hear the noises of uh, high tension wires above you, the high T's. You'll hear traffic lights changing. Uh, so this is why I'm saying that the AM will pick up the perps. They don't like AM, and they say, I have to get in it. So they get in the AM and they're stuck in there and they can't get out. They stay in that AM as long as I have that radio on, they're stuck in there. They have to stay there. And I don't know why, but I think their radio beam, not beam, their radio frequency is attracted to that AM the same way that trucks and other vehicles are attracted to AM. But I listen to two AM stations that are always static and they always aggravate the perps, and that's AM 530 and AM 100.
there you
And
go. I
they
want to
hate
make a
that.
point. I want to make a point here.
Go ahead, Bob.
By saying how low this frequency is on the AM, you prove a point that a lot of these devices that are being used are low power because we are a low power animal. It does not take much more than, say, 2 AA batteries to be able to hit you with and disrupt your thought, harass you, whatever. And that's what they're using a lot of times with me. I'm constantly being pulsed and it comes through the door, so evidently it has enough power to get through the door and hit me in the head. And it just leaves a swish sound. But
Okay.
but wait a minute, like your V2K that's constant, this can be constant for hours.
Okay. Well, I've worked around in my building. I didn't really like it at the time, but I had a 25,000 volt transformer running in that building all the time. Now, at that particular point in time, I didn't have V2K, but I can walk up to a transformer station, okay, and not
Yeah.
have any effect on the V2K. The V2K is still there. I can have a power outage for over 10 hours to the point where my freezer is melting and I am still getting V2K. I can go out on a camping trip in the middle of nowhere, okay? I still get the V2K there. So I'm being tracked. Now, if you think the government's going to spend $1 million, which is what it costs, to re-aim a satellite at just you, guess again, they're not going to do that. They
Well,
have
wait
to
a
use
minute. What
they
what
have to
about
use
the audio
something.
spotlight? What about like for instance, they used to play movies for me. I
They
could watch
still do for
like
me.
okay, before I'd go to bed, I'd be in a beam and or not, and I would be watching this movie, and it would go on and on and on until I fell asleep. Why couldn't they do something like that to you?
Okay,
and have it stick with you.
it's fortunate that we are able to have heterodyning in the public. Now, another area where audio spotlight and heterodyning is going to appear is in new television sets. They already have them. They have a big screen TV on the wall, and they have a split screen option. Now, one individual can be on one side of the room with his audio spotlight on him, listen to his movie, okay, not disturb the person on the other end of the couch who is watching another movie with his sound on his shoulder, not affecting the person on the other end of the couch. So audio spotlight is coming into homes. It's going to be in all your upper end homes very shortly.
I love it.
It's been advertised already. So it's to the point where the police department is going to be able to look at this and say, okay, uh, over and above audio spotlight, we'll say like that Mike has. I hope Mike's on the call somewhere who can chime in with me here. But over and above what Mike has, this is going to be in homes. So we can go with Mike, and preferably I'd like to buy, and I think I probably will, one of the smaller units that
Yeah.
is very close range, but not that close range, so that it can be held and I can hold it to the government official's shoulder. In other words, from, we'll say, 20 yards or 50 yards. The small one doesn't do that much. Okay, it's not as strong as Mike's, but he's going to hear that noise right on his earlobe, you know, and if it's safe to put it on his head, that's what I'm going to do, because it's important that we demonstrate this to the fullest extent that we can. And I think I think it's a $600 unit, the smaller one.
Really?
I could be mistaken, but I see them on eBay now, very, very inexpensive. So inexpensively. So that's one thing that I intend to do. I'm working. I'm putting my EMP device back together. I'm going to demonstrate that. I'm going to demonstrate it also in the dark. I'm going to show you what happens when you have high voltage leakage into your own hand. It doesn't hurt you, but it's blue light coming from the high tension cable going into your hand. Okay, this is at the 6,000 volt level. It doesn't hurt you, okay, but it's there. It's ready to leak out of its enclosure and snap you, okay? Now, high voltage, high frequency, high voltage is low amperage voltage. It is anywhere from 3 milliamps to 30 milliamps. And that, if you get hit by it, will not even hurt you. If you up the amperage even to 10 amps, it will kill you. If you up it to 50 amps at 6,000 volts, it will fry you. So high frequency voltage is the way to go if any of you are planning on building an EMP device. I have probably one of the best ones around. I don't have a pulse unit because pulse units have proven to be inaccurate. I have a sustained EMP, and what it does, it takes an object that is running, that is polarized. It depolarizes the object. It no longer has positive or negative. Therefore, the voltage that's there is driven out of the device, usually through the sides, and sometimes it will actually even burn a hole in a chip. But I can kill any kind of computer chip in a phone in a matter of 3 seconds. So this YouTube video, I encourage you to watch it. I'm going to make it within the next 2 weeks, probably next week. I have to go retrieve all of my EMP devices out of my storage locker, and I will make that available to the public. And that was taken from college drawings, a combination of college drawings. There was a college exam in Boston on EMP, and a lot of different students made EMP devices, many of which I could see on site would fail. But there was one that I found particularly interesting, and that's the one that I followed. Now, EMP is very simple. It's very close to wireless electricity. The difference is, okay, the voltage is different. There is a twin coil, twin to the one you're using for your EMP. And what happens is there's a transposition of energy to the other coil, and it will light a neon light. But that's a very simple form of it. But wireless electricity, Mr. Tesla knew about many, many years ago, and it exists inside a transformer that was around in the 40s. You have a primary and a secondary coil. There is a space between the primary and the secondary coil. No sparks jump, but that's wireless electricity right there in the form of a
Frank,
transformer. Sure.
can I change the subject for just 1 second?
Change it as long as you like, Barb.
Okay. I had a visit from a police officer last week.
Okay.
I wrote 2 letters to the chief of police and explained to him that when I moved into this new apartment, I got my ass beat to death. And I wrote to him and I told him I wanted it to stop. Well, anyway, he sent a police officer up. Police officer sat down and I can't remember. First question he asked me was, did I know what a pulse was? So I explained to him what a pulse was. Then we spoke, maybe 45 minutes. And the end of his comments was he asked me if I knew what a conspiracy theory was. And he was taking it from what the psychiatry is now spewing out as far as targeted individuals, is that we're all in this conspiracy theory because of what we're reading and listening to on the net. So we're all grabbing onto it. So I thought about this. Now, to a real scientist, someone who is a real scientist, a theory is not just an idea. A theory is something based in fact. This theory can change, but it is still based in fact. Now, a conspiracy is an idea that 2 people share, okay? It can be anything. It can be, let's kill this guy to the stars, you know what I mean? That's a conspiracy. More than one person, 2 people sharing an idea.
Yeah.
So if you think about this, the psychiatrists are designating us as conspiracy theorists because of what we're reading on the net. Now, if we're conspiracy theorists, that means that the theory that we believe in as being a targeted individual is based in fact. And a conspiracy is more than one person, which is okay. But the psychiatrist definition of a conspiracy theory is people getting together and adopting these ideas that are not based in fact. This is what the psychiatrists believe in. Now, if they believe that a theory is not based in fact, that means that they do not believe in the scientific belief that a theory is based in fact. So that just goes to show you that psychiatry is bullshit because
Well,
they don't believe in the theory of science as being based in fact. They believe that it is just based in an ethereal idea.
Barb, this is what
So they're
happens.
crazy.
This is what happens with psychiatrists.
Yeah,
Okay,
they're nuts.
they have a protocol they have to follow. If someone says they're a targeted individual, I did it myself. I showed a therapist that I was part of Targeted Massachusetts, and she said immediately, "We have inpatient care." And I said, "Excuse me?" After we had an intelligent conversation for weeks, I was trying to prep her for the idea that I was a targeted individual. Now, the minute I mentioned that, she said, "Well, we have inpatient services." And I
Right.
said, "Thank you very much." I got up and walked out. Now, the problem is, this protocol dictates to them that when they hear the words targeted individual or I hear voices, one says schizophrenic, the other says maybe schizophrenic, but problem, okay, get them in inpatient care. What we have to do is what I was trying to do, and that's educate the
They
medical
know.
profession.
You don't have to educate them. They know all about this.
No,
They are mandated. Now, wait a minute. The the
Bob, you're interrupting.
doctors and the psychiatrists are mandated by the feds to use conspiracy theory to cover up the
What's your
bullshit
source?
of what they're doing.
What's your source?
Okay, when I drove out west and I went to the emergency room to ask for a script to renew I was on an antibiotic at the time and I was running out, and I told him that I was being targeted. He looked at me and he said, "You know what I have to do, don't you?" And I said, "Well, then you go right ahead and do it." And we both knew that he was talking about putting me in a psych ward. And he said, "Well, I'm not going to do it." And I said, "Well, thank you very much. I appreciate that because," I said, "I'm going to California. I'm going to visit some people that I need some information from there." And he let me go. And at this point, I realized that this was a mandate, a national mandate from the federal government to all hospitals, that this is even Mass General in Boston,
No,
same.
it comes from the American Medical Association.
No, it
But
comes from the feds.
I see documentation on this stuff. I don't know what you're using for your sources. The American Medical Association, okay, they establish protocols just as uh, the government establishes rules to actually govern how laws are made. But the police have the same protocol. If you
They
go
get
in,
their walking orders from the feds. You will do this.
okay,
You're
let's do this. You and I have been talking for quite some time. Is there anybody else uh, among the listeners who would like to speak?
Yeah, hello.
Hello, hi Tom.
Hey, Frank, how you doing? I just wanted to bring up from earlier. You had been speaking about the voices pretty much harassing you and taunting you
Yeah.
um, all the time. I mean, over the stupidest, dumbest things. Have you ever tried to I don't know about ignore it. I mean, it's so hard to just use the word ignore, but I mean, I too went through that time when it was doing that to me. That has since passed. I mean, it's been at least 2, 3 months. But like you're saying, I would be working on my motorcycle,
Yeah,
and you go grab a 9/16 inch socket, and it's saying, no, that's not the right size. You should get another size. It's the other size.
yeah.
It'll say it's a 7/16. It's not a 9/16. And then as the 9/16 fits onto the bolt or nut that you're working on, it starts trailing off into something else, something else that kind of harass you about. So that hasn't stopped for you?
No, see, they employ, along with the V2K, they employ an emotion.
Yeah,
They,
oh yeah, no, I
they,
know. Yeah,
okay, you know all about it. Well, yeah, I've gotten to the point where I'm in like stage 4. If any of you have studied, uh, your different stages of electronic harassment or gang stalking, stage 4 is, well, you can't get any farther than stage 4. You just hang in stage 4. So, I'm not saying I'm immune to this, but I've gotten used to it. I think, Tom, you mentioned that you had just shrugged it off and you've basically dealing with it.
I guess, yeah, well, no, in a way, what I tried to do was break it down to its simplest form. So when it came down to it, I started to think, okay, maybe I am having a slight doubt that maybe it wasn't a 9/16 inch socket. But who doesn't?
Exactly.
I mean, you look at a bolt and you're thinking, all right, that's a 9/16. But then in the back of your head, you also think, well, maybe it isn't. Maybe it could be a different size, but I'm pretty sure it's a 9/16. And
Can
I
I say
started,
something? Just real quick. I promise I'll
yeah,
be real quick.
Just
When you
Bob, you
said
should let him
that,
finish.
wait a minute, when he said that the wrench he was not sure about and it instilled doubt in him, this is part of the process. Two roads to insanity. One is doubt and the other is isolation.
Yeah.
We use each other, we bounce ideas off each other to solidify our own sanity. So if you are in constant doubt, and sounds like what this
Tom
V2K
is,
is doing with, then don't isolate yourself. Keep yourself with other people because
no.
really,
he
Like
was,
you're
it is
saying, I see what you're saying, Barbara, but it isn't the doubt. It's the breaking it. I think you're missing the point. It's just breaking down your thought process to
right.
the
They're breaking
simplest
down
fact.
you to doubt everything that you do.
Barbara, are you a mechanic?
I have mechanical abilities.
All right. Any mechanic knows that if they see a bolt, they can guess what kind of wrench their desire is for it. I mean, if I used a different scenario, that as far as maybe I would be thinking about um, how to turn a TV on. There's no doubt in my mind how to do that. But so I'm obviously it doesn't happen all the time. So I appreciate your concern, but yeah, no, it's
And
nothing to do
just
with insanity
what I'm
or.
trying to say is keep this in mind when you listen to them and try to see if this is what they're trying to do with you.
No, I
Try
know.
to,
So back to my
because
point, right?
it sounds like this is what they're trying to do to Frank. They're trying to instill doubt in everything that you do.
Yeah, they make you. So what it is that it's the second guess. If
Right.
you second guess anything, then those negative thoughts or kind of harassing thoughts pop up. Frank, I don't know if that's really what happened for you,
yep.
but I kind of started to notice that I would have a slight little doubt, or maybe I would have a concern about something that I was doing, and not really a concern. I mean, just a natural way of thinking about it, and then that would flare up those conversations or
Oh
those
yeah,
voices.
you're right. Exactly. They can tell. I'm not sure how, but they know when you doubt something.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Right.
they know too much. Uh, that's why I'm working very hard in 2 areas. One is in audio setup. It's not audio spotlight, but it is going to work in situ with audio spotlight. And it has a number of transducers that go to your head with a mixer, and it will play different sounds to your head in different areas. And it will
Okay.
also record what's coming out of your head in 6 to 8 different areas. And what Mike is going to do is he's going to point the audio spotlight, and we still need a victim to try this on. But
Yeah.
maybe it'll be Mike, maybe it'll be me, I don't know.
Huh.
But we're going to try and confuse them. Now, another thing that I thought, I haven't really put it together, I need to talk to somebody who is up on viruses. There's supposed to be a master computer hive at the head of all this. Well, why don't we get a CD or a DVD full of viruses, and we'll throw them in this machine and play them back to whoever the victim is.
I wish that would work, but I think the virus would only work in a program. It
Yeah.
wouldn't actually work, transmitting just any type of vocalization or text, which would be, it'd be turned into text. I think you would actually have to have a program for the virus or something that would
Yeah,
have to be implanted
exactly.
into its actual system.
Exactly.
You could think about destroying it all day long, but in all honesty, I mean, yeah. I got another question for you, Frank. Have you ever noticed, like, if the sayings or phrases or your thoughts, do they repeat?
Yes.
Not as in, like, repeat, you'll hear it once, and then in 10 minutes you'll hear it again. Do they, like, if you are focused on something, and then you'll get off of that focus and you'll be thinking about something else, will the last thing that you were focused on pop back into your head?
Yeah, they try, and they also, you're exactly right. And what they
Okay.
also do is they run play. I will call it a play. They have called it a play from the beginning. So they run this same play every day the same thing, and they vary it to what your routine is that you are doing. So they try and use the same play. Now, say you're washing dishes and you weren't going to do that. Well, they throw in a skit that an old skit from when you were washing dishes 6 months ago
Yeah,
or something like that, and they'll
had that
throw that
happen.
in, and it's the same vocalization, same lines. It's sometimes it may or may not be a recording, and sometimes they'll put something on a loop. Like frequently, I'll put my hand in my pocket with my thumb out in my hip pocket,
Yeah.
and one will say, "Get your hand out of your pocket. Get your hand out of your pocket. Get your hand out of your pocket," and they'll keep repeating that for minutes. Sometimes 4 or 5 minutes. That doesn't bother me. I can't understand why they would think that it might bother somebody, but it doesn't bother me. Get your hand out of your pocket. Get your hand out of your pocket. Get your
Now,
hand out
while
of your
you've
pocket.
ever been in the process of listening to "Get Your Hand Out of Your Pocket," "Get Your Hand Out of Your Pocket," have you ever tried to just ignore it and think about something else and go on with your whatever you were doing
yeah.
other than that?
I
Or do
ignore it
you more
anyway.
or less you focus on it?
Oh, I don't focus on it. No.
Okay.
So if they can do this for 5 minutes, why can't they do this for an hour?
They can, maybe.
Well, then why wouldn't they do this to you on a mountain?
Well, they could, but what I'm
What
trying
does
to
that have to do with the cost of tea in China?
exactly.
Well,
What I'm saying is, it would wear off. The
hear it.
usefulness of that "get your hand out of your pocket" would wear off. See, they figure a phrase or a grouping of words is going to have usefulness for a given amount of time. After that, it's totally useless. So they throw it away. It's like when they first introduce a song on the radio.
Yeah.
They'll introduce it for a month, then you won't hear it. Then they'll introduce it again, and they'll hit it hard. It's sort of like the same thing.
I think it's
That's
funny
the
how a
answer.
couple of
Wait a
times.
minute. This is the answer to your question, Frank, about how can you hear this stuff on the top of a mountain? You just answered it yourself.
The Schumann.
Okay, I think in all honesty, the oh shoot, what was I going to say? I think it's funny sometimes how you get those impeding thoughts, like thoughts that are made to seem like you're thinking it, but it's being pushed into your mind. Like a phrase or something like that. Like let's say, like an Arby's commercial on the TV. There's the theme song that goes boom, boom, boom. It says
Yep.
Arby's, we have the meats.
Yep.
But so just relating that to other things, it's like, you'll be thinking or you'll hear the voices saying something and you're not even thinking about it, but then you'll almost like have an impeding thought to finish their sentence.
Yep. They
But in
call
all
those
reality,
places.
yeah, it's not you. You're not doing it. But then all of a sudden you get this overwhelming thought of, oh, that was your thought. That was you thinking. It's like, no, it wasn't. I didn't think anything.
See, they think it. They follow you around. What they're doing now is they try to aggravate me by following me around, telling me what to do next because they followed my
Yeah. I went through
Oh,
that.
yeah. Now you will do this. You will do this. You will do that. You will do
Yeah, the
this.
threats are
Yep.
hysterical.
Yep. It's unbelievable. It's actually this all comes from hypnotism and MK Ultra. MK Ultra was assembled, and the basis for MK Ultra is hypnotism, and hypnotism has worked for thousands of years. So
Hmm.
if you combine hypnotism with the ability to deliver it electronically, it becomes hard to defeat. So to me, I shrug it off.
Yeah.
That's what I'm able to do. That's what I continually do.
I got
And
another thing, because you're right. I mean, you just shrug it off. That's the best way to do it. And quite frankly, ignore it. It's the silliest thing. And eventually it just turns down and you'll focus more on what you're actually doing and you don't really hear it as much at the time. It kind of subdues it for a little bit. Um, Another thing that I laugh about, because quite frankly, in all honesty, I'm not going to lie to you. Ever since this started, it's been a battle back and forth whether or not this is actually from my own head doing it. This is my body doing this to itself, or if this actually is an outside source taking care of it. So that's really the battle I've had this entire time. And I completely understand with all the pain, with all the relations that I'm getting from other people's stories, that absolutely now, there is no question about it, this is coming from an outside source. But yet somehow the thought is still impeded back into my head that, oh no, this is you. This is coming from you. You caused this by doing this.
That's the doubt.
no, you see,
Yeah, it is.
No, it's not doubt. I don't doubt it one
No,
bit.
that's rationalization. That's not doubt.
He's doubting where the source is coming from. He's still doubting where the
Tom,
source.
No, he's
Yes,
rationalizing
No, it's
it
not.
out.
You can let Barbara speak. I'm not offended. I'm not harmed by what she says. I know what I know, and she can preach what she wants. It's not going to bother me. So thank you guys.
Tom, may I interject one thing?
Eric Fromm, he states that two things lead to insanity: doubt and isolation. What do they do to TIs? They isolate us. They
Tom,
doubt us.
I
Yeah.
have one request. I mentioned this earlier. There is a video. It's actually audio, and the name of it is Coffee Shop Background Noises. But what it is if you lie down with headphones on,
Yeah.
preferably in a darkened room, it emulates how they throw their voices around. Exactly. I mean, there'll be a girl above you on a telephone. There'll be somebody like 20
Yeah.
feet away rustling dishes. There'll be somebody talking in front of you. There'll be somebody talking to your left or above your head.
Hmm. Yeah, no,
And
I completely agree. That's pretty much what it was when it was at its most intense moment.
yeah, I'd like you to listen to that if you could, because
I can. I'll write it down right now. What would
yep,
you say? Coffee shop background noises?
yep, available on YouTube.
Okay, let me just pull up a new note. Coffee shop. But you know what? The thing that really solidifies it for me, knowing that it's not me. So if this was my own thought, right, and I noticed this is a glitch in the system. This is a flaw in the system. I don't know if you guys have ever noticed this. Now, when you, let's say somebody's saying a word like, and I'm just going to take a random example here. On the Howard Stern show, there's a part where one of the guys, they keep saying, hit him with the high. And if you notice there, when I said Hein, there's a certain pitch and a certain way that I said Hein. Well, in in certain circumstances, when I think, the voices will actually mimic what I'm thinking and play back in my head.
Yep.
And sometimes when I say, a word in a certain pitch or a certain frequency, it doesn't repeat it back in the same exact way that I thought. And I don't know if you guys have ever noticed that.
Yeah, you are definitely in the middle of, or probably at the same point that I am with the V2K. And it's
Possibly.
what I'm trying to figure out the delivery method, and I'm trying to figure out how to kill it at the same time.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
Tom, you weren't on the call when I went over the Schumann. The Schumann resonance is the Earth's frequency. It's 7.83. It's everywhere. It's everywhere. You can't get
Yeah.
away from it. And I also asked people to visualize a radio uh, frequency wave three-dimensionally, and it's like a flash of light. And I also explained that the distance in between the flashes of light is actually the frequency. But my point is, it would be very easy to latch on to the Schumann resonance to transmit this deadly signal of theirs. Would you agree? The Schumann is
Mm,
everywhere.
I would agree, but how would it not affect everybody? How is this
Chip,
only affecting a certain amount of people?
have you ever had an operation?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, there's your answer.
I don't know. I mean, I've had EEGs, I've had MRIs, I've had CAT scans, I've had X-rays, my entire body,
Yeah.
even the EEG, wearing the sensitive components all over my head showed absolutely nothing on the EEG. But of course, when I went in for the EEG, the voices were
Have
completely
your
silent.
water? Did you have your water? Have your water?
She must be talking to a pet.
Yep.
Yeah. But I've never had an implant. I've never assumed there was an implant. I never assumed. I've looked through all my MRIs. I've looked through my entire body, my skeletal. I can't find a single thing. So I mean,
They don't
if that's your basic going off of it, you might be right. You might absolutely be right. But there's just something that I can't see with the human eye.
Okay, I can't rationalize. There's a lot of people that look to satellites. Now, I've been in touch with a friend of mine, Max, and we are both in agreement that it is way above the national budget to spend millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars every year to focus a satellite on one individual. It's just cost prohibitive. It would be easier to hire somebody with a 30-06 or an M16 and take everybody out. But to focus a satellite is a lot of money. To run that satellite and keep it in space is a lot of money.
What
And
if it's
You're right.
already there?
Bob, it
What if
costs
it's
a
already
lot of
there?
money to follow an individual around.
It does.
Okay.
It does.
Wait a
Just to
minute.
maneuver the satellite around, because you don't have 24/7 on that one specific area of Earth. So it would have to be either multiple satellites crossing at
Right.
opposite times.
No.
What if they have them up there and they overlap?
Honestly, you're right, but it would be way too cost inefficient for them
No,
to actually
once
change
they
it
get it
for
up
every single
there,
person.
once they get it up there, and once they build it and get it up there, there's they use solar for energy to charge these satellites.
Cost $1 million
I don't know. I think it,
to change the
honestly, I
apogee.
think it's something simple, just like a cell phone call. So each person has its own number, and then
Right.
that's each individual cell phone call only goes to that one cell phone. I think it's something just like that, a cell phone frequency that's constant on the Earth.
I
You
agree.
know, they told me they'd dial my birthday in. Caller 12, you got some stuff happening.
Now, you guys are breaking up.
Hold on a second. Hold on.
I don't think it's that expensive
got
at
him.
all.
I think he's having trouble with his
I
line.
mean,
Frank,
I think
Frank.
these guys are in there operating them 24/7 anyway.
What,
Frank,
the
I
cell
have
phones?
a comment.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Frank?
Frank, this is Lori in Atlanta. Per Dr. Staninger, they spend 50 to 60 million on each TI.
Why?
So it's much more than
Well, now I
50
feel
million.
important.
I don't know. I
There you
don't know.
They don't have it.
Well, they're
I
spending it.
agree.
They don't have it. They don't have that kind of money. Believe me.
Well, they're taking out loans per Robert David Steele, who's an ex-CIA operative. They're taking out loans that they never have any intentions on paying back. It's one
Why?
of the things he said in a recent video.
Why?
Oh, I don't know why. They're
Okay,
crazy.
if a guy could take $1 million, we'll say, just 1 million, and invest it somewhere and come up with 10 million, why would he spend, how much did you say on each TI?
50 to 60 million.
That's
Yeah.
okay. That is nuts, because you could take 60 to $100 million and turn it into $1 billion almost overnight with the right with the right stock analysts. Am I correct,
Mhm.
Tom?
Yeah.
In all honesty, I mean, just free going down this road, I can just see a dead ending at how would you prove that?
They pay these guys
I don't know,
$10
Dr.
an hour.
Staninger.
They're boots on the ground.
I mean, constant surveillance, data, everything.
A lot of the
Weapons.
surveillance is not constant. They want you to think
What's up,
it's
babe?
constant, but it's not.
It's constant on me.
24/7 on me.
24/7.
Twenty-
Look, 25/8.
Yeah, exactly.
25/8.
Hey, Tom, I want to thank you. I noticed that you've gone mute. I just really wanted to thank you for your input, and I think you've got a really good handle on this, and I really would like to communicate with you further, maybe possibly by email or phone call, and discuss some of this stuff.
I think a lot of this.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Frank. I just like I'm saying, I do a lot of grilling, and my wife just come home. She thought she was getting pulled over, so she gave me a quick phone call. But yeah, no, I'm just here grilling. That's all.
Okay. Okay.
But yeah, like you're saying, I mean, it would be good to get in touch with you, but email could probably be the best. But for right now, these are working.
Okay. That sounds great.
If you want, I'll send you a message on Facebook, and I'll send you my email. We can contact each other that way.
That sounds good. I appreciate that.
Cool. But I'm gonna go back to mute and try and cook up some sausage.
Enjoy your grill.
Thank you.
Hey, Frank?
Yes.
This is Lloyd in Hartford,
Hey, Lloyd.
Connecticut. Hey, how you doing?
Good.
Yeah.
Did you get in
on the
touch with
topic
Mary?
Mary.
I just
No.
gave Okay, I just gave her your email. She's in Connecticut. I hope you don't
Okay.
mind that. She should be
No, I don't.
contacting you. So you should
Okay.
check your spam and junk mail and stuff and make sure that you haven't lost her, in fact.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was reading a book and I can't remember the name of it, and the topic of TIs are people, targeted individuals will be like telephones. They'll be able to dial up that in the future, you'll be able to dial a person up and be able to talk to each other that way. Um, it was some, one of the books I found on one government sites. Um, uh, oh man, I can't even think right now. But yeah, if I find it, I'll send it to you. You're talking about that subject in the future. That's what they want to do. Be able, or people will be able to talk like that. And I think it's usually with the cell towers is what we're doing it by, and not the satellites.
Oh,
Main.
I appreciate all of your very, very good posts. You're coming up with, you're uncovering some really interesting information, and I just wanted to let you know that I appreciate it.
Thank you. Yeah, I got a whole lot to go through. Some of them come out pretty good. Some kind of lousy. Still learning the Audacity program. But yeah, if I can, get some good ones, good recordings, I'll keep putting them out there.
All right,
And
great.
I sent one to the mayor here in Hartford and city council. Actually, I sent 5 to the mayor and like 4 or 5 city councilmen. I sent one to them and trying to have them figure out what the heck is going on, in the city.
How,
Somebody has to start
Lloyd,
somewhere.
Lloyd,
Yes, sir.
how do you think this is being transmitted? Do you think it's a global signal that people are just tapping into? Because
I
the Schumann is global.
If there's a way to use it, they would use it. That's the way I would have to approach it. If there's a way to use it to get a hold and control people, they'll do it.
No,
That's that's all I can say because I don't know more than much about it. So I would say, yeah, they probably can do it. How I don't know, but they can do it. If they can piggyback off sound waves, then Schumann waves shouldn't be much of a stretch.
okay, yeah. I originally wrote a paper in 2012 describing what I thought was the basis for this harassment. And I actually coined the lily wave on the head along with cell phone cloning, which is part of it. And it's I abandoned the lily wave, not altogether, but I abandoned it because the lily wave isn't out in the middle of nowhere. The Schumann is. All right, 16, got a problem there. But
And you
that's
got to figure, just because we are TIs doesn't mean everyone else isn't being affected. Everyone else, especially people around us, are being affected, and in the slightest way to either have start an argument with you, a family member get into argument, or people not or disagreeing with you, or not seeing or listening to hearing what you're hearing, and it's yeah, everybody is being affected in one way, shape, or form. But TIs, I think we can feel it and understand what's going on. And I think I think every TI is a special person. I think that's why we're being targeted.
exactly
Uh,
right.
because We know something's going on. Trying to explain it to folks who don't know what's going on is somewhat of a hurdle. But because not so much from us, but the other people, non-TIs, are like, as some folks like to say, they're not woke. They're still asleep. They're still caught up in the matrix. They're loving their materialism. And sports and everything, all the distractions. Entertainment and amusements. They're all into that heavily. And like, who the baseball on today? They know the scores of that, but anything of importance is like, come on, man.
Yep.
This world's going to pot. Can't you see it? Can't you see what everyone else is seeing? Us TIs are seeing. Come on, man, something's not right.
Yeah.
And it's like they're being stuck and stupid, and we're like trying to wake up, say, hey, wake up, man. Like comatose or something.
Just to work on what you had just said, I think that probably 20 to 30% of the TI population are in mental facilities with the label schizophrenia. And onset schizophrenia, will only affect young people. It will not
Correct.
all of a sudden jump on somebody that's 50 years old. It doesn't happen that way. And I think 20 to 30% are us out here fighting. And I think the others just don't know yet.
Right.
So
can I say something?
go
This
right
is
ahead.
Sally Ann.
Hi, Sally Ann.
I talked to my counselor about older adults being diagnosed as schizophrenia. And she says, yes, it happens twice in a lifetime. It happens in your 20s, and then it happens later. And I think that this is a lie, all right? That the psychiatric community is now pushing.
Quite possibly. I have never heard anyone come up with a schizophrenia diagnosis that was of any value after the age of, we'll say, 45. And schizophrenia is something that manifests itself at a very young age and then gets progressively worse and then may change into multiple personality disorder. And for that to happen at age 50, well, it's just not gonna. And I think you're absolutely right with the psychiatric community.
Oh yeah, they're pushing it because she was totally convinced. I mean, she sat there and she looked at me. No, this is the way it is. And I looked at her and I said to myself, no friggin' way. All right. I have been in counseling for years because I was diagnosed as bipolar. And I had an incident in my life. I am actually really bipolar, but I feel like I cured myself. I don't feel like I suffer from it, but the psychiatric community makes up stuff, and then they put it in their little, I don't know what they call it, the MD5 or whatever it is, their manuals.
Their journal too, prior.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's all BS. It's all BS. It's all opinion. There is no scientific basis for any of it.
Okay, I'm in full agreement with that. Is there anyone else that would like to comment?
Hey, Frank, real quick.
Go ahead.
In one of my recordings, I think I heard a name of a doctor, Dr. Volitsky. So I looked it up, and there's a doctor in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania by that name. I think he's a psychologist or psychiatrist. But I'm not 100% sure. It's on one of my recordings. I'll look it up, which one it is, and I'll let you know.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
Yeah, he's probably involved in this if his name came up.
Barb, you still on there? Oh, I guess Barb left. Oh, well. Well, to get back to radio frequencies, they said that everyone would be chipped by 2017. I don't think they've made their mark. But what they have done is they've seen to it that everyone in society, or just about everyone, has a cell phone. And the tracking ability with a cell phone, you all know. You leave the state, they know it. Like, I'll be out of state and they'll say, I'll just hit Google and they say, oh, all the restaurants in your area are here, and they list them. But they know exactly where you are all the time. But as far as satellite tracking, I can't see them spending the money. A friend of mine who's been a TI for a long, long time, his name is Max, he doesn't believe it either. And he can't understand how in a very, very short time, comparatively speaking, everyone is swung over into this nanotechnology as being the sole basis for this without digging further.
Well, how about this as a theory, okay? They do enter our homes. Is it possible that they've put something in our living area? Well, that wouldn't explain what happens when we go someplace else, but
yeah, this is what baffles it baffled me in the beginning. How can you go on the road, leave your automobile, walk for a ways, and you still have this with you without it being something that is common to everything? So unless they spent like $1 billion a piece on all the TIs, they don't even have enough satellites. Well, there's too many of us. There's supposed to be, in 2005, 300,000 of us. We're all here somewhere. Come on, that's a small city.
yeah.
And there's more and more coming to the surface all the time and coming out wondering what's going on. Because I get the calls. Because in the beginning, frantic. Go ahead.
What about the telephone poles, the wiring?
Yeah, that's Lily.
What do you mean? Elaborate on that.
Well, I mean, what if they've got the signals emanating from the electrical supply that's on the roads?
I think that's very capable, possible. What I'm starting to really feel is that, I mean, I don't know how many of you have been through the tunnel in Boston. Who's driven through the tunnel and still able to hear it,
I have.
Which really kind of, I honestly, I don't pick up my cell phone when I'm driving, but I too as well. So, I'm thinking, all right, get as low as possible underground. and eliminate all signals and see if you can still, hear or pick it up. What I'm starting to think about is that, it can jump from electronic to electronic. It doesn't necessarily have to strictly, just like your phone. They have Wi-Fi calling nowadays. Well, if your phone is running off of a regular frequency on your phone, standard bandwidth, as if you were just making a regular phone call, and then all of a sudden you walk into a Wi-Fi area, the phone then picks up through Wi-Fi because it has a stronger signal. I'm starting to think that it can jump from technology to technology, but I haven't made that distinguish yet, but I haven't ruled it out because I really don't have any physical proof until I actually do encounter the time where I get in a situation where all signals are canceled out and I'm still able to hear it or I'm not able to hear it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I've been trying to run interference.
That's awesome. That's a good idea.
I've got my radio on static. I have some walkie-talkies, and I don't know how to use them, but I've been carrying one around with me and just having it on, and it's all static.
Huh.
So I've been, and I can even clip it onto my shirt if I want to.
Yeah.
And I've been trying that. Today when I went out, I had my cell phone with me, and I put the walkie-talkie in my purse next to my phone, and I had on running interference, testing it.
Yeah.
And I don't really know if it worked or not, because it was a heavy traffic time of day. It was like 2-3 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody gets out early on Friday, so.
So your goal was essentially to jam the signal so you didn't hear it, or your goal was to pick up the signal on the device?
Jam it.
To jam it. And did you get any jamming involved, or did it work, or you think that you just kind of lost focus?
I think they couldn't track me because I think they used my phone. Or there might be something in my truck they're using too, but I think if I was probably jamming everything as far as they're tracking me, but I'm still getting headaches. So, I always feel better when I'm driving around than I do at home.
Yeah, I like your jamming idea on the tracking part, but in all honesty, not to kind of be a naysayer here, but it. Just like a regular cell phone has tracking, as long as you have a signal going to you and a signal coming from you, as long as there's 2 points to pick that up, they can triangulate it and figure out where you are at any time. But in all honesty, what are you worried about them tracking for you? Who cares if they know where you are? Is that something that you're really worried about?
It bothers me that, it makes me angry that these people are following me.
Yeah, but then you got to look on the other side. How funny is that they're wasting their time following you? How important of a person are you really that they would take the time to track and figure out exactly where you are? And that's really what gets me is I find it hard to believe that there's that much time and effort wasted, which kind of gets me to the thinking of, not overthinking this whole process. We're all together important, but each individual TI isn't. So they wouldn't waste their money on each individual person as much as we think they do. What I think is that it's keep it simple, stupid. You go back to the original basis on how engineers, we break things down and we figure out piece by piece by piece to get the most simplest form. So to really say that they're tracking you 24/7, and I don't know if this is going to bring you a little bit of relief, but I don't think they are tracking you 24/7. I don't think they know your exact location 24/7 unless you just so happen to think, oh, I'm in Boston, Massachusetts now. You know, and why would they waste that time?
Well, you know, I don't worry about what I think anymore
True.
because
Yeah, that's a bold
like
statement.
it's like, you know, like you said, why am I so important? You know?
Exactly.
So I don't really worry about what I think that much. I mean, sometimes I say to myself, wait a minute, you know, don't give them any ideas. But
yeah.
As far as, you know, it's like, who
Working
the hell
on that,
cares? You know,
yeah.
I mean, it's asinine. It's totally asinine.
I've really come to the basis where I have gone back to exactly the way I was before this even started. I don't worry about what I think. I don't care about what I think. I don't go back and rethink what I think. I've really, in all honesty, just gone on with my life the way it was before. And if all of a sudden something pops up where it starts to nitpick one little thing, I laugh and I think, no, there's no way in hell that I would even sit there and nitpick that because I could care less. You know, and that's really, really helped me out. And it's almost, the voices for me are almost gone. They are almost absolutely gone. I have them slight here and there when I focus on them. It brings them back up, but they barely even around. But the impeding feelings or the impeding thoughts, those are still around. Not as intense as they were before, but really just the thought process of not worrying about what you're thinking, not rethinking anything, and that I think sets the program up where it doesn't have anything to attack you with.
Right, because if you're worried about this and you're worried about that, all of a sudden you're running around and you've got a buildup of anxiety.
Correct.
And they feed off of that.
Mm-hmm. So, in all honesty, your whole theory with, you know, okay, well, I'm going to try and jam them and I'm trying to block their tracking. I mean, you might get it to work. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying I'm the naysayer, but quite frankly, you're just kind of adding fuel to the fire. They're thinking, oh, now look at her. She thinks she's blocking us. Let's just see what more we can harass her with by impeding thoughts into her head that she's actually getting the job done. You know?
Yeah, I'm not sure, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you.
I'm not sure. I do know a lot of vehicles that I recognize on a regular basis, but I don't think I saw anyone today.
Oh, you're referring to as in like gang stalking, as multiple personnel are involved?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. See,
there are certain vehicles that I actually recognize.
Yeah. I mean, there's a vehicle that lives next door to me. It's my neighbor's car, and I recognize it, and I see it every day. But has it actually done anything to me? That's the real question. What has it done? If it hasn't done anything where it hasn't bumped into you or hit you, you might as well just forget about it because, quite frankly, it doesn't have anything to do with your life, and the only thing it's doing is causing you to think about it and think about it and dwell on it, and that's really the problem that it's causing in your life. So your best bet is to just forget about it. I don't know. It's so easy for me to say, but then it's also
well. You know how they have one light, one headlight.
Maybe in some circumstances, maybe if that's what you believe, but no, I have never noticed that.
Never?
No, I mean vehicles have one headlight because the light's either blown out or they just got in an accident. They just hit somebody and did a hit and run. In today's day and world, people do hit and runs all the time. So a headlight out doesn't signify anything to me. But what do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm very aware of the gaming that's going on. I'm very aware of it.
Okay.
And it's
Well, that's good.
numbers.
As long as you're aware
It's
of it, but
numbers.
you gotta.
It's numbers. It's numbers. So, you know,
Okay.
Hey guys, I'll be back in like 1 minute. If you can continue. Hold on.
thank you, Frank. Yeah,
Is there anybody
and
else on the line that wants to chime up or talk about their symptoms or anything that they've experienced to see maybe if somebody else has experienced the same thing? No, huh?
I was gonna say, are they able to see into your home through Wi-Fi, or is that just?
I can't say yes and I can't say no, but what is it that you have in your house that you're worried about them seeing?
I'm not worried about anything.
See?
If I'm butt naked, I'm butt naked. I really don't care.
Hi, Sally.
That's kind of.
I'm fatting over. I'm out of
hi,
shape
who's
and
that?
I'm Lloyd. So it's like, who's gonna look at me? You know, my shades are closed when I'm going to take a shower, so I really don't care. You know?
Do you mean as in like an echolocation?
I'm just trying to learn more about what's going on, and the the Wi-Fi part. I know the hacking. I know Comcast is in bed with the fusion centers.
Oh yeah, they love
here.
the feds.
Yeah. I've got a thing about the fusion center here in Hartford or in Connecticut. I got two here in Hartford, state one and city one. City of Hartford and CTIC, state police and feds. Both one's right up the street, right near in the home office. And I'm just trying to.
I wanted to ask the guy who was talking before how long he had been a target.
Myself?
The guy that ignores.
You mean me?
That guy?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, my name's Tom, by the way.
Hi, Tom.
I noticed.
I'm wondering.
Oh, hi, Ian.
Hi.
I actually noticed. I noticed the symptoms. I'd say March 2015, but as I think back in my head, I think it was maybe 6-7 months before that. So I'm thinking.
Tom, I'm tracked 24/7.
Okay.
I'm harassed all day long. I'm out like because I have responsibilities 12 hours a day where I'm out of the house.
Oh, same
and
here.
I'm tracked all day long. But I fell off the wagon. I know the key is to ignore it. I fell off the wagon and let it get to me, son of a bitches. But I'm back on the wagon.
Nice. I think that's the best thing you can do.
I mean, I hate when they break in and rip my stuff off, but I mean, I really can't do much about that. But you gotta ignore it. I mean, I'm heavily stalked. I just have to learn to ignore it.
Yeah, I'm back.
So yeah, I confirm what Sally Ann's saying. It does happen.
Frank, I gotta go.
Okay. Take care.
Alrighty.
Yeah, personally, I myself have never been exposed to that situation, so that would be something totally new for me. Actually, I was broken into in the very beginning when I moved to this apartment in F Street in Hull, but that was the only time I'd ever been broken into, and I haven't seen like any traces of any of that activity in years and years and years. So
yeah, likewise. I've never had a break-in. I've never had a break into my vehicle. I've never had a break into my shop, my garage, my house. Never. I can't even say that. I mean, I've had assumptions, but I've never had 100% proof that is true.
Yeah, Tom,
and
have you?
Well, they kept engaging my emergency brake.
That's a good one.
Yeah, and I don't use it.
Yeah, well,
so
it's better than cutting your brakes.
Yeah.
They push down on your accelerator also.
Really? Has that happened to you?
Several times, yes, in front
While
of
you're driving?
other residents. Oh, yeah. I was in control of the car, and all of a sudden it would speed up, and I could feel losing the accelerator, you know, right
Do
below
you
me.
have a computerized vehicle?
I suppose everything's computerized, but it's
Or
never
do you
done
have
that in the
loose floor
past.
mats?
No, like,
Well,
you know, like the newer vehicles are highly computerized.
no, it's a 12-year-old Toyota.
Okay. Well,
And I've
they
come home
probably,
and found my house wide open. You know, I think the women are probably easier to do that on than the men. I was a nurse. I'd work 12 hours during the night, come home and find my house wide open. And I live in a park with a security patrol, supposedly, who never noticed.
yeah, well, they probably paid the security off, you know. They're I don't know how they do it, but I mean, my maintenance man was coming into my apartment. All right.
Oh, yeah, I've seen
And
the maintenance guys here. Yeah.
And I called the head office one day. I called I'm in a HUD housing. I called HUD housing in Washington, D.C. I was complaining about this all across the board. And it got back to the manager here, and she kind of flipped out, and she wanted to talk to me, and I never even talked to her about it. I just walked
in front of a judge.
You did?
Oh, I sure did. And I found out that 2 other states did the same thing with this corporation. This is a beautiful senior park. Very beautiful.
Could you
I've been in it for over 20 years.
Could you repeat what you just said, please? I didn't hear you.
I don't know.
It sounded good.
What did you hear?
Oh, crap. It was the last sentence you said.
It's a beautiful senior park.
No, something about the housing.
Corporation.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've lived here for 21 years now this month. And I did go before a judge, and evidently 2 other states took the same corporation. They kind of encouraged me to do it too. There was 44 in one state and a father of one of the residents in another state. I did it alone, and I took the information of video of home entry, broken windshields, which I had seen people next door, a lot of reimbursement from my insurance company, and some of the information of reimbursement disappeared from their office, made numerous police reports, but I'm insane, and I'm a registered nurse, and I was working during this time.
I'm totally confused. There were 44 people in one state that sued the federal government?
No, this corporation that owns this senior park. It's a very, very beautiful park.
Okay, 44 people sued the corporation. About what? About, like, what happened? Why were you suing?
I don't know I don't know what their problems were, but they found some irregularities in the paperwork, and it worked for them. I didn't use that.
I don't understand what. Were they targets, I guess, is what I'm trying to understand? Were these 44
I don't know.
people
I
targets?
didn't ask, and they didn't talk about it. They just mentioned that they were able to do it and were successful, and the corporation had to pay in both instances. No one paid in my instance.
But yet you don't know what the corporation did to the people?
It's the same corporation that has my park, hon.
Yeah, no, I don't understand what happened to these people. I don't understand why they sued. I guess you don't know.
I said it was because of the paperwork.
What? I don't understand.
Corporations have you sign paperwork, and there can be questions about the appropriateness of the paperwork, and evidently someone knew more about the paperwork.
Okay. Okay, I thought it was targeting. I'm sorry. I wouldn't have asked.
Well, I don't know.
Thank
That
you.
could be. I don't know. They found something that was irregular. What the other reason was, some of the people have had issues with property damage and harassment in the park, whether it was from the corporation or people in the park and it wasn't taken care of, which was what I did. What happened there, I don't know the issue. I just was interested in the format of how they did it. And a lot of times you're very alone when you do these things, but you have to step forward and do it. And of course, it gets worse.
Okay, is there anyone else who would like to comment on this particular segment? Okay, then.
Is
Go ahead.
Memoir on
I
the
got a
call?
question. Has anybody ever noticed that if the auditorial hallucinations or voices that you call them, does anybody have it when they're in a fan, or if they're in the bathroom and they're running the fan, or if they're in the shower? Do they seem to spark up more?
Yes.
Do you think that that's because you're having more activity go on in your mind, or do you think that's because there's an ambient noise in the background?
Ambient noise in the background they're playing off of.
You think that's what it is?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't
How do
know
they
if it
do
was
that?
because of... How do they do that? Because they're able to hear it. Your mind picks up that frequency, and it's able to transmit that and register that is hearing an ambient noise. And then that's when the program or the system is, then becomes a little bit more active and prize on that.
Yeah, I was told that the system actually picks up that noise, brings it back up, mixes it, and then sends it back down again to you. So it's a very elaborate system. I'm sure we'll understand it in.
And then sometimes it mimics it and mocks it and plays, whatever it wants back in that same signal.
Yes, it does. They can mimic a car going down the street and play that back to you at the same time. It's really weird the way they can do that. No, actually, that's real time.
Yeah, it's real time. It's interactive AI. I guess is the best way to explain it. Or if you ask me, that's what I would assume it is.
Because there's times when I would have different doorbells, the fax machines, and phones ringing. There was a period of time they used that, and sometimes it was mine. And then occasionally, like I have cats, and they would have that. And there was like recordings, like the police say, I get parts of conversation, and I just assume someone pushed a button and it was a recording that they played at intervals.
Okay, what I'd like to talk about now is where they get their primary source of information. And I started to speak about this earlier on in the call, but I really didn't have enough people. So I'll bring it up again. They use your own senses, in this case, your eyes. They follow every move that you make. They make comments on everything that you look at, because simply, if you're looking at something, that's going to be your next thought. Like a written word, a coffee cup, a mug, a picture. So if you can deprive them of sight with an extremely dark pair of glasses, which I have mentioned, and those would be brazen glasses, they can't compose anything further to add to their recordings of you, because they don't have anything. They don't have any input. So that is where they get, I would say, 80 to 90% of their dialogue and that is from what they see through your eyes. Now, we're still learning how they do that. It's my understanding that they harness the visual cortex and are able to see. They can hear, and I've become totally aggravated at some points in time because I'll be trying to read, and they are physically trying to read ahead of me, read behind me. So I end up speed reading, and I just pull the important nouns and whatnot out of it and put it together for myself, which I used to do anyway. But it's cumbersome having two more people on your head all the time so that you have to physically not think for them, but think around them a little bit. So it's the crime of the age. That's the only thing I can come up with to describe it, because I have never encountered anything like this. Because there's always, in any crime, there's always an authority figure that you can call. There's always an authority figure that can come to the scene of the crime. In our particular case now, we are having to reinvent part of the legal system to respond to our needs. Now, it was mentioned earlier that a gentleman petitioned the state government, I believe, to intervene on experimentation on animals, in this case, dogs. So if you look at the legislation that took place to pass that, there was no question they passed. But we have to go through hell and then some, and they turn their backs on us. But this is what's happening, slowly but surely. Everyone, will say, in government is turning up with a family member that has this. And that's going to be the case. It's going to be 1 in 10, then it's going to be 1 in 9, then 1 in 8. Before too long, everyone will have someone that they know that is a TI. And that is when we really start to have a gleaming scalpel to go after the enemy with. And that's happening. And it's because of people like you who get on these calls, share their information, and gather more information and spread it on. That's how we spread the word. And I am very happy to be on this call tonight because we've had a lot of interesting input from different people, and we've shed light on a number of different aspects of targeting, including gang stalking and physical targeting. Now, there is a very old, I wouldn't say it's too old, it's called The Program. It is on Vimeo. The first keyword you want to put in is target, then put The Program on Vimeo, and you'll come up with a very nice video that explains gang stalking through electronic harassment, and it explains the different phases to a degree, and I really recommend that for those of you who haven't seen it. Is there anybody who would like to add a story or something that's happened to them or a question? Okay, then we'll move on. I'd like to talk about what you have done with your family members. Now, I'll tell you what's happened in my particular situation. My family has been decimated. Okay, my brothers do not speak to me. My mom and dad passed away before they knew any of this, thank God. But my kids, my children, they understand it a little better, but they're afraid they're going to catch it. I think that's why they're pretty much staying away. But I miss seeing my granddaughter. I miss both my granddaughters and my grandson. I miss them very much. And this is really hard on me family wise. And my advice to you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but until we get a better basis on this, a better handle on it, you're going to have to try and keep it from your family members unless you have a real understanding family. Any comments?
Do you feel that the organization that seems, I call it a cult, that's involved in this group atmosphere of harassment would go out of their way if they knew that you had some dissension with a family member and notify them to participate?
I don't believe so. That would shed too much light on the situation, and it would also alert the family member that you are in fact telling the truth. So I've heard that before, and I don't think that can happen. Anything can happen, but I haven't heard of that, because the minute you alert another family member, okay, then there's 2 that know. Then there's 3 that know. Then there's 4 that know. So that's something that they would stay away from, because they want to work on you personally. They don't want any of your family members to be in the least bit educated on this. Now, I've tried to send videos. I've tried to send a lot of documentation to my family, to my brothers, to my children. I haven't spoken with my grandchildren about it because 2 of them are very young, and one of them is a teenager. So, go ahead.
I have another question too. I had some strange calls, and when I asked them to not call again, I'm not interested. It was with a timeshare that I had had for 28 years, and then I didn't hear from them for quite a while, and they wanted to invite me to the, I hate Las Vegas, but all these places, to show these places. I said, I'm sorry, I've had it for 28 years. I'm not interested anymore. I can't afford you anymore. And so I said, don't call again. And then they kept calling. Finally, one woman called, and she says, we're told to keep calling you. And I says, okay, I'll put you on the harassment list, your phone number. I never got another call. Now, why would she say something like that if that hasn't been planned?
Well, I would say she was actually telling you the truth. A lot of people get on cold calling lists, but in your case, you are on what's called a hot calling list. And what they're trying to do is to stay on you so that you'll come up with some sort of decision. And
okay. It wasn't with the targeting then.
Right. No, it wasn't. It actually,
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, a lot of businesses, particularly the one that started it was the stock market. They had people in the offices, and they had a cold calling list, and they would just call people out of the wild blue to see if they wanted to buy into a company. People that had never, had any stocks before, but that's the beginning of cold calling. But now they do it with computers.
I'm glad to understand that a little better. It's nerve-wracking because you associate it right away with the negative, that's going on in your life.
There is something going around that you should be concerned with. There is a call going around that says, due to software recently installed on your computer or device, you must call this number back. Don't call the number. Just don't do it. Stay away from it because Apple or MSN or any of those will never call you with such a warning. They will send you an email so that you can ID the email, but they will never ever call you. So make sure you never take any such calls. So they call me all the time.
I've had a lot of issues with my computer. This is about my 8th one in 17 years. My phone system's even more, so they do interfere and things just keep disappearing. I just assumed, and even when I tried to have it fixed, evidently information about me or against me is out. All businesses. I know I've talked to other women. When I used to go over to California to a lot of their meetings at Davis, I would talk with the different, I'm in Arizona, and I love going over there, and I just love the people. Met some really nice people over 17 years. And one of the big things is they just find out what kind of approach. And actually, I worked nights and slept days, which is very difficult. I got a jammer one time, and that really helped me for quite a few years. And there are different things out there that really will help. There's just so much interference in trying to get anything accomplished or send messages, even your mail.
How did the jammer help you?
It was interesting. I still have it. It had things that I taped to myself, to my chest, and then it had something I put up on the bedboard that had a rotating thing on it, and it disrupted any kind of rays that came at me, and I could sleep. And I used that for quite a few years, and I don't get a whole lot of that anymore now. It's just the noise campaign that keeps me awake during the night. I mean, they have hit me a lot, neurologically, and medical issues. They were hitting me so much I got that because they were hitting me so much in the chest. I was ending up in emergency room. I'd go to work at 7 o'clock at night for a 12-hour shift. And then my supervisor had to take me down to emergency room, and I was in, attack, and it just was a nightmare. I mean, I constantly in emergency room because they were hitting me so hard. So I got a lot of information, from that. And I just kept telling him, I said, keep it up. I'll go back to the emergency room again. I had no problem getting more information, and things let up for a while. But I got a lot of medical information out of that.
Okay, is there anybody that would like to elaborate on that? Okay, well.
Does anybody else use jammers or anything like that? The kind of, I don't know, that was probably elaborate shielding for me, because I usually use the rubber mats for years. Has someone else found something that is better than that? I mean, I'm sure we're getting a lot of physical touch.
If you don't mind my asking, how much did that device cost you? And where did you acquire it?
Davis, one of the guys, I can't remember who sold it to me. He was well known at the time. He's been active in our group for a long time. And he would bring all this equipment. And I can't think of his name. It was the early 2000s.
Okay, so that equipment's probably obsolete by now.
Yeah, it isn't working. I started getting shocks from the stuff that I taped myself, so then I stopped using it. But it helped. I use the rubber mats, and that helps. But I really have absolutely almost no hair because I can wake up and feel them rubbing across my hair, and it breaks it all off. And so I'm just about bald wearing a wig now. I mean, they really have, they're so gentle about it. And I wake up and it's just, no one's around and there's something rubbing back and forth over my hair and it's all broken up and bald spots. It's amazing the technology that they could use at that remote distance.
Okay, if no one would like to comment further, I would like to move on to the next segment if I could. And that's legal, a legal foundation. If you're isolated in a position where you don't have an automobile, you don't have transportation, but you do have a cell phone and you do have a computer, I suggest that you get online, go to the FBI site, and go to their submit a tip area, and it gives you ample space to type in your full name, phone number, address, and exactly what's going on, and it gives you plenty of room to explain it. Now that's doing two things. It's getting you down in the records with the FBI as having this problem. So it's starting a foundation, and I suggest that you contact the field office of the FBI in your area and make it known to them that this is going on, because not only is that going to help you, it's going to help everyone else. And you can go to the FBI site and you can get an email address for just about each and every FBI field office. Like for Boston, it's boston.fbi.gov, I think. But it's real easy to do, and they have to read it, they have to file it, it'll go under your name, so that when this stuff starts to really come to a head, you'll have a legal foundation for them to look at. They'll say, okay, well, Lisa Ann called us, and sent us email back in 2014, and she's been sending things consistently ever since. So that's going to give you a foundation. Does anybody want to add to that? Or
Well, I'm sorry to be so dominant on this. I know I've never probably called in before, and being an older TI, I did go, we've met with the FBI before and even went to the offices here in Phoenix, one of the other TIs and I, and went to Santa Ana, a bunch of us last year, I think, a year ago or so, year and a half ago, and we met with the FBI, and a lot of us brought affidavits and little documentary of our issues. So a lot of that would that count? Do you think? Because that is
most
it's
definitely.
written,
Most
and
definitely.
I've written to them. A male friend, other TI, has called them when I was really in desperate need on the other side of town, and the first thing they asked, is she black? And he said no, and then we can't help her.
Oh, unbelievable.
Connie Marshall would have loved that.
So you've been quite active in the TI community for quite some time then.
Yeah, I held meetings for TIs over here for quite a few years, on and off. And I just have sat back to let the younger ones take over. And they keep asking when there's going to be another meeting, and I keep saying, you're the initiator. Just find a place and people just show up. That's just what happened when I did it. You know, I tried to encourage people not to wait for somebody else to do things. Do it yourself. You like a certain restaurant? Hey, I've gone all across the community. I've gone 40 miles one way just to go to a TI meeting here in this area. And this is a large metropolitan area. And Robert keeps going on. When's the next meeting? Robert, you're the next guide. You know, be the initiator. People will always show up. It's just someone has to make the effort to say, okay, let's go to this restaurant. Because we held meetings all around, places I'd never been to, but I loved it. You know, I guess I love to drive anyway. But the stalking on the road is so dangerous anymore.
Certainly is. Go ahead.
They've gotten worse.
It sounds like you've done a really good job. But you can start a chapter anywhere in your state. 5 or 6 chapters of TI groups, and meet in one particular area. We'll say once every 2 or 3 months. Yeah, we'll say.
I leave that to the younger kids. I'm not going to do it. There seems to be a lot of competition and backstabbing going on.
There is
in this group, and I won't put up with that. I don't have the time for that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You know, and I just, you know, and I'm lucky. I have some beautiful TI friends. I thank God for the wonderful people that I had met that are TIs. You know, I mean, that have really enriched my life. The situation has really opened your eyes to the kind of people you want in your life and the choices you can make with people. And I'm a private person.
Well, I wish that
been robbed.
You would write to me, because I would love to communicate with you. I will give you my phone number if you like, and then we can converse, and I can give you my email address. But my phone number is 508.
Yeah, I have it.
Okay.
Frank, I have it. I know that there's some issues there with Derek, which is fine, but I still like your calls because I think they're more basic to new people that need to be enriched and supported, and you do a nice job of that. And I try to listen in. I usually don't talk this much on anybody's call, but I like your calls, and I like the effort you make to support people. Thank you much for that.
Oh, thank you for joining the call, for sure. But that was...
Yeah, I want to say thank you.
Go ahead.
I just want to say thank you to her. Thanks, Frank. Thank you to this lady for, you know, it's great to hear from PIs who have dealt with this for so much longer than some of us, and to give us some kind of advice. I wanted to ask you, if you don't mind, Frank, I wanted to ask her if she has anything to say about the new people. Like, what do the new people say? Do they say they weren't surprised about it? Do they say different things than the older people say happened to them? Or
one of the girls called me grumpy. The other girls came, and she's 78. Give her the benefit of the doubt. I guess I am a grumpy German, background, and pretty serious. I've been a nurse for 53 years. I worked that long, and 14 of them were here. And I was a TI during a lot of that. But of course, here I am known as being an insane person. So I look at it, and I don't know that these young girls do. They're still a little hysterical about things. But, after 17 years, I guess I'm kind of laid back, and I think they're in my life. These people are in my life for humor. I'm not kidding. You know, I live in a senior park. I go around it. They play these little games of running up behind me and making loud noise, mostly the men. You know, and some of the women just, just like to mock you in front of a group of people. And I just laugh at it and get up and walk away. But, I have to look at it as humor. I mean, these are entertainers. They're taught how to entertain. They're taught how to approach you, and it can be a different pattern a lot of times. They change their tactics. So, that's, to me, I got a puzzle that I'm living every day. And I try to look at it that way, that someone's entertaining me. I guess I'm important enough that they meet.
Well, that's what I hear from TIs that have dealt with this for 15 to 20 years, is that at this point they laugh at it. They laugh at the gang stalking. They laugh at the street theater. They laugh. I don't think they laugh. No one wants them breaking into their houses, but that part, that they say what you say.
Yeah, they look at me and laugh too, which is good. I suppose they're imitating, and okay, you're making fun of me, you're mocking me, and, and everybody's ha, ha, ha. I'm sure it's the same thing that I do, because I just go off and laugh, it's.
Yeah, I get that all the time. They're constantly mimicking me. Constantly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how these people wake up in the morning and do this every day. It's unbelievable. That there's so many people.
I agree. They're paid. I see lots of new cars here.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
Unbelievable, the amount of new cars.
But
and
people
evidently,
will take money to harass people. It blows my mind.
Well, we're a real threat to their lifestyle. I mean, we have the capability, and especially after, I know that they have some kind of, I just saw a guy follow me around in Safeway the other day, and of course he was laughing at me, ha 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 ha. He was older, he was pushing a thing for walking, and it had a like a bicycle, I don't know what you call it, wire and then he had his computer on it. He walked away from it, and I just happened to go over, and evidently there is a checklist that's out about me that's sent to businesses, because I have seen this in other situations. So evidently anybody will see. The one thing that they did, they were putting complaints in my folder up at the clubhouse, and I wasn't allowed to see the present ownership. That they showed me the original owner's folder. I was not allowed to see the one now. When I did see it, there must have been over an inch of complaints or comment pages against me, and they would send them to me at email and let me have a quick look at it, and then they take it away.
Can you go back to Can you go back to the part where the man had the list on you? That shops have a list on us?
Oh, okay. It was a checklist. I didn't get to read it, and but I try to take pictures. They ruin my camera, or they take my camera. So I've lost a lot of information of pictures I have, because they will take my cameras, and they've done that a lot over the years. So I've seen this checklist also being used by one of the women up at the clubhouse when I went up one day, because I came home and my house was wide open, ADT, and my phone system was off.
And
so
what is the checklist?
I don't know. I wasn't able to get close enough to get the information, and my camera wouldn't work to take a picture.
Oh, isn't that interesting? The checklist.
Yeah. Well,
I wonder
they have.
Do the companies have the checklist, did you say? Or the stalkers?
Well, they did against me that's sent around, because I have seen it, and it's labeled as behaviors. Like I said, they sent me pictures of this different things, and I have seen them in the, you know, in the clubhouse and that, and
I
think
see.
it
So
is
like my
correctly-
behaviors would be fixing my eyebrows and and pushing my hair. And so those are the behaviors they mimic back to me from the car. So that's the list of behaviors they have about me that they want to mimic back. I get it.
Well,
Okay, I think
blowing my
that's what you
nose
mean.
evidently upsets
Oh, yeah,
them,
that's a big
but
one.
I
They
understand
love
that we do have something in our nose that they put in, and possibly our ear. And also, I've had people give me the middle finger, and evidently that's one of them. And I have to use my middle finger to blow my nose, to put my glasses on. You know, the clip-ons. You know, anytime I do anything like that, you can just see them have a reaction. I mean,
yes,
they're
level,
trained to have their reaction.
Right. The lack of humanity is astounding to me. The lack of humanity that these people will go with a list to harass an innocent person that they don't even know for money. It's the sickest, lowest form of humanity to me, and I want these people squashed. I want everybody to know about this network, this program. It's insane.
Well, talking to Elizabeth Adams, she used to run she was going to the university. She lived in her car, a lovely lady. I've known her for years. She, at the UCLA, she used to make videos, America Needs to Know. She's a black lady. She also had meetings at one of the churches in Oakland, which is a scary place to go to. Then I spoke at the meeting, and one of the Black Panthers, the last Black Panther, even spoke. I've gone to places because I thought this was exciting. I want to know more about it, and believe it or not, I'm very low keyed, but this really got me. I mean, I've never been really active politically. I am now for the last over decade. My brother was very active in Cleveland. Oh my goodness. I'm threatening, evidently. Are you hearing that?
Yeah. I love when you said that America needs to know. I love that quote. America needs to know that there are scumbags
Elizabeth did meetings and interviews. Well, no, Elizabeth did interviews and made recordings of that. I don't know if it's Elizabeth Adams. I don't know if it's still on the internet. She made recordings, and TIs would show up to be interviewed. This girl lived in her car quite a bit. This is an active Christian lady. I can't say enough good things about Elizabeth. A very strong personality.
Does she want to live
these
in
are
her
the kind of people I met who were really trying to work on this. And she said everybody has been marked as pedophiles or molesters. And she says, I'm a grandmother, and hey, I'm a great grandmother, and I go and no one's ever come to my door, never had any police reports, stuff like that. I've had complete reports about my complaints, and I've even given the FOIA to them, Freedom of Information Act. Never got anything back. Actually, I volunteered for one of the fire departments as a CERT, Community Emergency Response Team member for over 7 years. And I asked one of the main firefighters, I told him about this. He'd never heard of it, but he did give me a name of one of the men here. And they, of course, had my complaints, and a lot of times they aren't particularly honored. I've had complaints where when I got the information, I was an insane person. Okay, I'm insane. That sounds good. I'm having a lot of fun.
if somebody told me that someone was insane, I'd have compassion for that person. What is this about being angry and violent and mean to an insane person? That is just pathetic. Where is it? Where
They
is
don't
people's
believe this is
mindset?
no, but from what I understand, now there is Homeland Security people in every police department. Is that what I'm getting? Frank, do you
Probably.
read that?
Yes.
So this is a whole ballpark. We are complaining about something violent, and they're going to look at us if they claim they don't know anything. And I have seen police department participate in it. Sheriff was around me the other day, and the sheriff I voted for, the present sheriff, Sheriff Joe's out. Paul's in, you know, I mean, we finally got one of our guys in, and Sheriff Joe, we know Sheriff Joe of Phoenix, Tent City, been in there for decades.
Do you mind me asking what it was 17 years ago that got you targeted at your
I can't.
late?
They never let you know. It could, listen, I've been a nurse. There's a lot of nurses in this organization as TIs.
Wow.
A lot of nurses. We take care of a lot of people under a lot of circumstances. There's different type of nurses. There's clinic nursing, hospital nursing. You can do private duty. You can do traveling. I mean, we have a lot more options than we ever have. And I have a retirement from one of the largest Midwest hospitals, well known internationally. And this is, you know, I'm really happy with what I have done in my lifetime. I'm very proud of myself. Whether someone wants to distort that, and that's fine. Go ahead. If there's something I said that they decided that it's twisted, or that's their problem. Being a medical person, I think we talk a little more freely about medical situations and stuff like that. The terminology we don't hide from, which I think, you know, isn't probably used with a lot of conversations and stuff like that. Okay, so maybe, I don't know, you know, you have to think about, I don't try to study that. I mean, it has to be people that are unkind enough to make a judgment on someone they don't know when they weren't even involved in it. They can take information from other people about us, but what does it say? You know, I mean, you can construe. Isn't that their idea, is to misconstrue anything about us?
Yes, it is. I would have to say that Homeland Security would be probably embedded in police departments that are in areas that have had a lot of trouble, like the Hammond situation. But as far as...
I was looking at Hammond too.
Yeah.
There it is.
No, I mean Hammond. The Hammond situation where the man was killed by the FBI.
Oh, no, I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, the government tried to take over people's land, you must have heard, and the people fought
Pete
back.
Santelli?
Yeah, where Pete Santilli is.
Okay, yeah, he came up here and we had meetings up here, and they did a walk down the middle of Phoenix and on our behalf.
Yeah, we miss Pete Santilli. He was a TI voice.
Yes.
He
I remember.
Truly
him.
interested in helping, and I'm sure we'll hear from him again.
Oh yeah, like I said, he came to Phoenix. I have pictures with him when he was here in Phoenix. We went down and spent days with him, and some of them walked through the streets of Phoenix with him on our behalf. So, yeah, good guy.
Okay, folks, everyone's going to be heading over to Linda's call. I think it's 140091 on TalkShoe. And this call Tonight stops at 9 o'clock. This coming Wednesday, it'll be 9 to 2 usually, 9 to 2 a.m. But I want to thank you all for coming, and God bless all the TIs.
Thank you. Be safe. Good night.
Good night.
Hey, Frank, what's the other number?
I think it's 140091.
140091?
Yeah, that'll be Linda's call.
I'm sorry, do that again?
140091.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Sure.